What if the food pyramid you grew up with wasn't built on science, but on a 19th century religious vision claiming meat made you sinful? The truth about modern nutrition guidelines will blow your mind, and it's not what your doctor told you. Hi, everybody. I'm Marc Bates. I'm a metabolic health coach, and this is part of my question and answer series. The shocking religious roots of modern nutrition guidelines, not science. So let's get to the question. When you examine the historical development of modern dietary guidelines, what specific evidence do you see that religious or philosophical vegetarian ideologies influence scientific nutritional recommendations, despite potentially conflicting metabolic health data? Well, there is strong historical evidence that religious and philosophical vegetarian ideologies, particularly from the Seventh-day Adventist Church, played a major role in shaping modern dietary guidelines, even when such recommendations conflicted with metabolic science and human evolutionary dietary patterns. The key findings from historical analysis are, okay, 1. The origins of the plant-based push, religious ideology over science. So Ellen G. White, who was a Seventh-day Adventist prophetess in 1863, she claimed divine visions told her meat was toxic, as harmful as alcohol or tobacco, defiling the body and leading to sinful passions. Okay. She advocated a Garden of Eden diet of fruits, grains, nuts, and seeds as God's plan for humanity. This belief system was explicitly not based on biochemistry or observed human health outcomes, but on moral and spiritual purity. Okay, now just as a little side note, I've spent 20 years in seminary and teaching biblical classes, and at least from my perspective, and we can talk about that if you ever really wanted to, this BS that the Bible teaches you to eat fruits, nuts, grains, and seeds is just that. Okay? So, let's move on. 2. Institutionalizing vegetarian ideology through medicine and dietetics. So, the first big push here comes from John Harvey Kellogg at the Battle Creek Sanitarium. So, Kellogg was raised in the Adventist faith. In fact, he was one of Ellen G. White's proteges. Okay? He built a vast health institution promoting vegetarian diets, bland cereals, and soy nut meat substitutes, originally to suppress sexual urges. Now, there are some really good documentaries on John Harvey Kellogg and the Battle Creek Sanitarium. If you want to get some shocking things, watch one of those documentaries on it. Okay? Now, he trained hundreds of dietitians under his religiously driven vegetarian ideology. One of the founders of the American Dietetic Association in 1917 was trained at Battle Creek, writing dietetic textbooks for 30 plus years based on Adventist vegetarian doctrine. Okay, then you get into the processed food industry with two primary companies, Sanitarium, which is primarily a European and Australian-based company, and Kellogg's, which we all know about, right? Entirely, at least in the beginning, these were entirely owned or founded by Adventists. Okay, and Sanitarium, I believe, still is an Adventist-owned company, producing thousands of vegetarian cereals and meat substitutes to replace flesh meats and butter worldwide. The Dietitians Association of Australia, for example, received corporate funding from these companies and promoted their message while actively suppressing low-carb and meat-based science. Okay, and you want to look into how many American dietetic schools are also sponsored by food companies, and you wonder if there's a conflict of interest. Follow the money. All right. 3. Religious industry partnerships influence government guidelines. Some of these may surprise you. Harvard School of Public Health from the 1940s, right, had some issues here. Mervyn Harding, an Adventist, studied under Frederick Stare at Harvard and published pro-vegetarian research that formed the early basis for population-wide plant-based recommendations. Adventist ties to institutions like Loma Linda University, and having lived in California most of my early adulthood and childhood, I'm very familiar with Loma Linda. They embedded vegetarian doctrine in U.S. dietetic education, extending to public policy, school lunches, military rations, and hospital diets. A lot of the doctors that came out of Loma Linda, because it was considered a very good medical school. To go to that medical school, you had to be an Adventist, so you had to practice vegetarianism. No wonder all this stuff gets pushed. And they were very active politically. Okay, so modern lifestyle medicine and the Eat Lancet program. The global lifestyle medicine movement, founded and still led by Adventists, claims the Garden of Eden diet as evidence-based medicine while disregarding evolutionary science. Okay, they just don't even line up. And this ideology heavily influenced the Eat Lancet, which is in English, UK, planetary health diet, and current plant-based sustainability narratives. Okay? 4. There's a conflict with metabolic science. Despite a century of epidemiological evidence showing carbohydrate intolerance in diabetes, superior weight loss with low-carb diets, and no causal link between saturated fat and heart disease, right? Plant-based dietary guidelines persist, largely due to ideological bias towards vegetarianism from religious doctrine, economic alignment with cheap subsidized grain and soy industries, institutional capture of medical education and policy boards by Adventist and food industry interests, and the suppression of low-carb, carnivore, and ketogenic research in official guidelines. Right? So there is a fight going on here. So let me give you a key takeaway here. Modern dietary guidelines are not purely scientific. They are deeply rooted in this 19th century Adventist religious beliefs about the morality of eating meat. Amplified by corporate processed food interests, these ideologies were embedded into dietetic training, public policy, and health recommendations, shaping the anti-meat, pro-grain narrative that dominates nutrition science today, often in contradiction to human evolutionary biology and metabolic health data. So it's all there. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you have comments or questions, leave them in the appropriate section. Thank you very much. We are running a channel here for this community. If you have something you want me to cover for you, let me know so I can start working on a video series for you. And I want you to get what you're looking for. So thank you very much. And please, if you haven't done so, like, share, and subscribe. You help the channel a great deal, and you'll be helping a lot of others. Appreciate it.